Should make sure I hit record on here too.
There you go.
All right. And then we'll close that window.
All good.
All right. And let me see. All right, go live.
There you go.
Oops. Here we go. All right, now we're really going.
That wasn't an echo, was it?
No. Well. Oh, that's weird that worked. Yeah, it was coming out of my phone. I put it on YouTube just in case
Ah, okay.
anybody comes on and makes comments and stuff, and I forgot to turn the volume off on my phone. So, all right,
So long
welcome
as we're
to.
good to go.
Yeah, I think we're good to go now. And yeah, too bad we can't do it on Facebook too, but that's all right. I'll post this on Facebook afterwards. Um, and there's one person watching, and it's probably me. And this is all live. Uh,
Could double our audience and I could log in if you want.
All right, welcome to a brand new episode of GenX Book Club, everybody. And this month we're covering Brothers by Alex Van Halen. It's like the newest book that we've done. And once again, as usual, welcome Del Rayling
Hello.
and Suzanne Mataboni.
Hi, all.
And I'm Paul Stressler. I should say that, I guess. Um, Yeah, so I don't know this was I thought it was a really good one. It's Brothers by Alex Van Halen. It was published on October 22nd, 2024 by Harper. And yeah, I was excited about this one because I've been a Van Halen fan from way back, and yeah, I even learned some new things. And I got the hardcover version of it, and I also listen to the audio
Mm.
because I have Spotify Premium, so I was able to listen to the audio for free on that. So it was cool hearing him read it. So and I tried doing that with the Belinda
Nice.
Carlisle book, but hers was on her audio was abridged, so it was like missing a lot, so I couldn't follow along with that. But this one followed pretty good. So even he even laughed at the appropriate spots too, and even some
Yeah.
Yeah.
extra spots. So, how did you guys read it?
I listened to the audiobook too, so I enjoyed that. But yeah,
Mhm.
it was nice having him give his perspective. You could like you said, you could feel the emotion at different times while he was reading.
Mhm. Yeah, like sometimes it sounded like he was like reading it for the first time and realized it for the first time he cracked himself up.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. I have a lot of thoughts and I have a lot of questions about this book too. We can get into that, but there's just a
sure.
lot of a lot of things that I'm like, well, what about this or what about that? And it sort of
Mhm.
stops in
84.
1985,
Yeah, yeah,
four or
right.
five. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And all right. I think Suzanne, you mentioned that you weren't really into Van Halen, back in the day.
Yeah, no, not really.
Because
I
you're
mean,
more of
the
a new
music,
wave
yeah,
girl. Yeah.
the music was all over the place. Yeah, you heard it everywhere you went.
Mhm.
Um, and they were all over MTV. And it's not like I didn't like the music.
Mhm.
Um, and it's obvious to everybody that Eddie Van Halen was like the most amazing guitarist on, planet Earth. Anybody could appreciate that. But it was more that whole like David Lee Roth swagger, like arrogant, that, like that was not a good image to put in front of a bunch of college age men and fraternity brothers because everybody, thought they were David Lee Roth, and I just thought that was obnoxious. But so I can't really say that I was like a big Van Halen fan, but you heard the music everywhere, and the my boyfriend was a big Van Halen fan, so
Mhm.
but I still, in reading this, I thought this was great. I thought it was the best of the memoirs that we've read so far. I think I like this one the best. Just hearing how hard they worked and how and consider. I mean, a lot of the other people we've read about. I mean, they've done good work, and they were, Belinda Carlisle was right there at the beginning of the punk scene and stuff. But that's different than being Eddie Van Halen. He was really unique, one of a kind artist in his, in that time frame. So it was kind of like this story of this virtuoso and told by the person who knew him best, and how and it's his own story also. So that it was really fabulous to hear how that happened. And not being a fan, I didn't know any of this stuff, like
Mhm.
since reading the book and talking to people about it. Various Van Halen fans have said to me, "Oh yeah, I knew that thing about the M&Ms. I knew that thing about him doing this and that." I mean, I knew some things, but I didn't even know that they weren't American. That they weren't
Mhm.
born here.
Right. Yeah.
So to me, it was like a really fresh story, that I hadn't, I didn't know upside down and backwards, like a lot of those, 80s actors and stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah, same for me, Paul. The Van Halen, to me, I mean, I know they have kind of a cult following, but it's just another group for me. Honestly, just another group from the '80s that is huge. And I didn't know a lot of this story at all, and I was fascinated as I was reading this, just with I had no clue about their relationship. I had no clue about the behind the scenes stuff on the band. Um, and the one thing that was interesting, which I've always thought of with Van Halen, and he brought it up during the book, is what kind of band are they? Are they a heavy metal band? Are they a rock band? Or what? And I've never really thought of them as a heavy metal band. Maybe you do. I mean, that's
Uh,
kind of your genre, but
mhm.
um, I to me they've always just been a rock band. But it's interesting that the heavy metal scene tried to mirror their image, and that's what
Yeah.
the hair bands and all
That's
that.
interesting.
So that was
Mhm.
kind of fascinating to me. But there's so much to unpack in this book. But that was
Mhm.
just the one thing, not knowing much about Van Halen, just Alex's perspective, or Al. It's hard for me to do Ed and Al. It's always
Right.
Eddie and,
Yeah.
and Alex, but his perspective of kind of what kind of band were they, and that people wanted to be them. They wanted to be Zeppelin, and everybody else wanted to be Van Halen. So
Mhm.
interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. And they kind of got their back up about it if somebody called them a metal band. But
Yeah,
they kind of gave birth to all these other metal bands or hair bands, etc. Who were I mean, it's so obvious how closely they tried to copy their look and their sound, but
Mhm.
yet they were not, the musicianship wasn't quite the same. They were more, glam kind of, hair bands
Mhm.
where I don't know. I guess if you were to ask me in the 80s if they were a hair band, I would say, yeah, they are the hair band, but they were not just a hairband. They had something really special. And I was like you were saying, I was just kind of amazed that they had that all that time, that they're so true to themselves, that this was not just a bunch of people that were kind of put together to make a band. They were hard worker, hugely hard workers, devoted completely to making this happen. And that David Lee Roth was just, that persona was just him. He said, I wake up in the morning and I'm on. And that's
Yeah.
the guy that he was since they met him as a teenager,
Mhm.
every minute of his existence. It wasn't just, hey, this is my persona when I'm on stage, and when I go home, I'm a nice guy and I pet my cat and, I, watch Bugs Bunny or what have you. He was that guy all the time.
Mhm.
So I was impressed with that dedication. Even though I hated that persona, I am impressed with his dedication to it.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, they're true musicians. And right when you say say hair bands, Van Halen, for some reason I don't put them in that category. I never thought of that. I always thought of them more as a rock band. But it is so funny how the hair bands kind of came from them,
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
basically.
and MTV probably added to that because
Mm,
all those videos, David Lee Roth and his craziness, like just think of like Twisted Sister and Rat, and I mean it was all kind of the same, so it all kind of blended together. But there was something unique about Van Halen that stood out. I mean, they're just the pure talent. And I think the thing that I really was appreciated or was impressed by is that Alex talked several times in the book about wanting to please the audience. It wasn't like, we've got these talents and everybody loves us, and we're just there because they're going to show up because we're Van Halen. It was constant. We want to make sure that this is memorable. We want to make sure that our fans are happy when they leave, that that they're telling everybody what a great show that was, and that's our job, and we're gonna put 100% effort into it.
Yeah,
So
I
I
think
really love that part of it, because I didn't sense an ego from him with
Mhm.
that. Like, they're all coming to see us and they love us and all that. It's like we're there for them. And I was really impressed by that.
Yeah, as what they're that they're known for their partying and everything, but then when it comes to the performance, they're so professional
Yeah.
and
right. There was a
uh,
real big divide there where they off stage, they were wild men. There
mhm.
were just no rules. But
Trash
when
their
it
hotel
came
rooms.
to
Yeah.
the music, they were so serious, like you're saying, and they were um devoted to making it an experience. So that, they felt like they had an obligation
Mhm.
to live up to what they sounded like on the road. Actually, maybe it was the opposite, that they wanted to, on the records, live up to what the experience of being in the audience was. And just the devotion and just the hard work they had not. You don't. I mean, he said multiple times that it was a lot of fun. The work was a lot of fun,
Mhm.
but he definitely described it as a job. This is our job. This is our vocation. This is what my our father taught us to do. And he said, just it's about the music. Don't believe your own, bullshit.
Mhm. Yeah.
Which, he came back to multiple times over the course of the book. But I am kind of a workaholic type who feels that way about anything that I am involved with. I am like, I don't want to fool around. I don't want to get down to business. I want to, anybody who is not on the same page with me, just don't even talk to me because you'll slow me down.
Yeah.
So I can really appreciate four guys who got together and didn't just say, okay, let's play music at parties so we can get girls. Well, the girls were there, yeah, and that was great, but they were there to make great music and achieve the heights that were lucky enough to actually achieve. So
Yeah.
Well, what was it? He says W WDFA, something like that at some point in the book. We don't F around.
oh
Was
yeah.
that,
Yeah.
that was their motto?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's true.
WDFA. Sorry, I had to think
Yeah.
about it, but yeah. Yeah.
Well, I think some of that, that those working habits they have, it comes from the parents. The mother apparently was really tough on them too, and there was well, go here. I have that their mother wanted them to be concert pianists at Carnegie Hall, not Van Halen with the Monsters of Rock.
Right, right. And
She wanted them to
wear
be
a suit,
proper
wear a
Yeah.
suit.
musicians. Yeah, yeah,
Why aren't they in a suit and tie, And then she ended up
yeah.
with these, crazy, mad rock stars instead of, sophisticates in suits. But
Yeah. And I think that they could both play like any instrument too. And it's funny. I don't think
yeah,
I
it's
knew
amazing.
that. I can't remember if I knew that Alex started playing guitar and Eddie played drums, and then they ended up, switching and finding out that Eddie liked the guitar better and he was just a natural at it, and then Alex
Mhm.
liked the drums and everything. So yeah.
And
So,
I love that. I mean, he's always been kind of famous for, taking the guitar apart and like putting things back
mm,
together the way that he wanted them to be. But the description of that was, it wasn't just, I'm going to be a rebel and make this what I want. It was more that they grew up in very sparse home, and that's what you did when you needed something a certain way. You just made it that way because you couldn't just go out and buy something custom. So that was just kind of in their blood to customize what just take whatever was around the house to make the thing that you were trying to adjust the way that you want it. And just that mindset, I think, was applied to everything that they did and gave everything that very unique sound. He said they were always searching for that sound that
Hmm.
he called the brown sound that they, maybe finally found in the end. So,
Hmm.
but that's like to me, that's fabulous. That's showing that creativity just has no it knows no, it doesn't know poverty. In fact, I think maybe it's you have to be more creative when you have fewer resources and fewer options. It maybe
Right.
makes you more unique because you have to get there in a way that the person who's throwing money at it
Hmm.
can't
Yeah,
do.
just manufacturing it instead of doing your own. And yeah, yeah, and just that dedication that he spent hours upon hours putting and his guitar was called Frankenstein and it was a good
Yeah,
reason for it. So
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, because he bolted things together from
Yeah.
a spring that was in the drawer, and
Hmm.
that's just brilliant. It's brilliant, but it comes from they say necessity is the mother of invention. He
Hmm.
had to invent these things because, and I think he didn't know that they didn't exist so much as he didn't really have the option to go out and find something that existed that would satisfy what he was looking for. So
Hmm.
he has something nobody else had.
Yep. Yeah, he even taught himself the guitar. And then I guess his mother was saying, tell him that he was doing it wrong, and he said, "Well, that's why it's like it's music theory, not music fact." He
Yeah,
just
there you
had his
go.
style and everything. And I believe Alex was the same with the drums. I think he had a unique drum setup that not everybody had either. So, um, yeah, one other thing I wanted to point out too was they were influenced when they got to the United States when they heard the Beatles and Dave Clark Five, and I just think that it's so awesome how that so many bands got started after hearing the Beatles. Like the Beatles got
Yeah.
created so many bands, and then Eddie Van Halen is the same thing for the guitarists. Like we said, that a lot of people started playing guitar because of Ed.
Right, right. He
He's a
became
major
that person
influence.
for the next generation of
Hmm.
musicians in a way, or
Yeah.
especially in a certain uh, genre. And I don't think in any way you need to be a fan just of metal music
Hmm.
to aspire to be a guitar player like Eddie Van Halen was. So
Hmm. Yep.
kind of cool.
Yeah. And yeah, and then they end up finding Dave at wasn't really an official. I wonder if it was one of those backyard parties or something. It was someplace he was in a band. Was it Red Ball something? Red Ball Jet or something he was on, and yeah, they met there. Then it ended up being a big riot going on. Well, the day that they met. Yeah.
Yeah, imagine that.
But the contrast over there, and they kind of needed that. But I think that's really what helps their dynamic because then you have the professionalism of Eddie and Alex, and then Dave. Yeah, but because of them, it helped to have like that wild guy that leading them.
Yeah, that was obvious, I think, throughout. I think that what seems Alex seems to be a really gracious guy. Let's just put it that way.
Hmm.
He, even though I think it's feels like he was still very hurt over the fact that the band broke up. Dave went and did his own thing, etc.
Hmm.
They didn't really want to do that, but I think he was very quick to acknowledge David's talents, the things that he was good at, the the way that he leveraged those things for business purposes. Like this is a business. This is not just,
Hmm.
we're on stage. That even that they really did need him because they'd been told over and over again that they were just too shy for this kind of
Mm.
so add that ridiculously brash guy who's just always on, and for him the point is to make a huge show out of everything.
Mhm.
And that was like the missing piece of their puzzle. So they needed each other.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. And yeah, honestly, like, I think he's probably the second most entertaining frontman of any rock band ever. Yeah, after Freddie Mercury, but
Well, yeah, there you go. There you go.
Freddie got a mention in the book too. So when he was talking about,
Mm,
Dave's kind of flamboyance and
right.
that he
Hmm.
mentioned Freddie Mercury at one point. Is it
Hmm.
weird that Sammy Hagar, did I miss it? Was he never mentioned in the book at all?
Just
Uh,
when they met him earlier when he was with,
Yeah.
I think they played with Montrose or something. That's when.
yeah, a couple mentions, and I think
Okay.
I read the acknowledgments. I think he's mentioned there.
Okay.
Like he thanked him. Like you said, it does abruptly stop
Mm,
in the mid '80s when David Lee Roth decided to go solo, which is kind of looking back is it was sad, it was acrimonious, it was at the height of their powers, and I can only imagine how ridiculously frustrating that must have been for them.
mm,
But they did get to achieve so much up until that point.
mm,
I really didn't realize that they had been at that at the whole business since the mid 70s. I hadn't
yeah.
really heard too much from them until like the early 80s. I guess that 81 or 82 I started hearing that music. Once again, I was not a big rocker head, but I mean I had friends who were. And like I said, my boyfriend, who is now my husband, was a big now they call it classic rock. It wasn't classic then, it was current, but
Yep.
and he's dragged me to a few concerts here and there. So, I have an appreciation.
Hmm.
Paul,
Yeah.
have you seen Van Halen in concert? Or did
No,
you?
the well
No.
the closest I came was this past summer when I saw the Sammy's The Best of All Worlds tour.
Oh, okay. Okay.
They did all Van Halen music with him. Michael, he always plays with him, Michael Anthony now, and then was it Joe Satriani was playing? So it was everybody but Van Halen's from the original band.
No.
No,
Were,
no Eddie and Alex.
were they doing pre-Sammy songs or
Oh no,
was it
a mix.
okay?
Yeah,
Okay. I didn't
yeah,
know if they legally could do that or not, but
yeah. They do some songs. Yeah,
okay.
yeah, yeah. I think now I can't remember which one. Michael Anthony did one of the David Lee Roth songs.
Okay.
Yeah, but they did some. They do Panama Jump and yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't think I ever heard like I suppose I could YouTube it, but I never heard Sammy perform anything prior to their what 5150 whatever I think that was the first album they came out with Sammy, but I never heard him
Mhm.
go back and do Jump or Panama or anything like that. So
I haven't either, but
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. It's
didn't
on
really
there. Hmm.
I
wasn't
just
really
wonder what
looking
it.
for it.
Yeah, yeah. I just wonder what it sounds like.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He does a good job, but yeah,
Okay.
it's different. That's another thing too that yeah, people are always comparing whether that which one they like better, but it's I feel like it's comparing apples to oranges.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
David Lee Roth's like a
Yeah, I guess
rocker,
it's
and
really
Right.
not
yeah,
fair. Yeah, it's not fair.
yeah, the Sammy's more like the more the good like songwriter. The lyrics were he's more like rhythmic, and then David Lee Roth was like the screamer, jumping up and down and everything. Two
Yeah, but
totally different
a
styles.
showman, really,
Yeah, yeah,
really put on that show.
yeah.
I
He's a
mean, even
showman, and
in the
Sammy is the
videos on the stage, it just translated so well, especially to the for the MTV uh, generation, let's say. It was just what people needed. If they were going to sit down and watch a video, they needed somebody who could just like grab their attention and not let go.
yeah, perfect timing for that.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. He's more of a showman, and Sammy's more of a musician type of deal there, I think. So
Hmm.
I like both, so can't go wrong with either.
Okay.
But yeah, as far as the book goes, like you said, Stop and Show, that kind of reminded me of the Queen movie. Was it Bohemian
But
Rhapsody? What did they call
yeah,
it?
Bohemian
Yeah.
Rhapsody.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
because that
Yeah.
stopped short too. Like it stopped at Live Aid, and then there was still more to the
Hmm.
story. They didn't get into the AIDS thing. And even in the movie, they mentioned that I think they mentioned that he had AIDS, but at that point, I don't think he knew yet. So, but in the book, it didn't. it stopped. You didn't even get to the Sammy stuff, which I'm sure was interesting too. And then it definitely stayed away from the cancer and everything.
Yeah,
And so I feel like
Yeah.
maybe it's too soon for Alex. Maybe they'll go back deep into that. Maybe this was tough enough as it is, and then to get into his illness and everything. I don't want to remember him like that anyway.
right.
So,
Yeah, I didn't know if he
Mm.
was going to get into the final days or anything like that. I'm kind of glad he didn't.
mhm.
But I did read that they asked him if there was basically more to the story, like does he have more to tell? And he said, "We'll just see how this book goes."
Okay.
So there may be another book coming at some point in the
Yeah.
future. So this
I think
this was really
it's
good.
yeah, I think it's going well. I think he's selling a
Mhm.
lot of books.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then I did hear him on Chris Jericho's show. I don't know if you're familiar with that. Talk is Jericho.
I don't think so.
He has a really good podcast. Well, he was if you're not familiar, well, he's still. I was gonna say he used to be a wrestler. He still is. He was in the WWF and WWE, and now he's in like this new one, AEW. So he does have a lot of wrestlers on, so I kind of skip those episodes, especially when it's current ones I don't know. But he covers
Hmm.
a lot of, but he's our age and he covers a lot of Gen X stuff. Like he did one on the
Okay.
Outsiders, and he always does album challenges. He has his friends come on and and they would take two albums by an artist and then they'd go track by track and see which one wins. Yeah, the song one from this album's against song one of this one album. They all vote on it, and then they pick which one's better.
Hmm.
It's a lot of '80s albums that they do, and yeah, so he covers a lot of that, and he had Alex on, and that was really fun too. He was really good. And the one thing that cracked me up was Alex said that I don't know if it was one time, if it was often on Ray Davies with the Kinks. He said that he would go out there. He said, "Oh, all right, we're gonna do this Van Halen cover now," and then they play "You Really Got Me."
That's funny. I was surprised. Now, it's obvious that a lot of those songs were covers, but I don't know, that didn't really at the time sink into my consciousness that, I mean, they did such kind of original versions of the songs
Mm,
that they really made them Van Halen songs, I didn't really differentiate between which songs were the covers and which songs were not, just because it was so, still so much fun. So
hmm
I love their version of that King song. That was
Yeah.
it's an excellent version.
Yeah, that was actually my introduction to them because I would listen to our local rock station and they play that all the time. But actually, I believe that's the one
Mm.
they would do Eruption and then it would go into You Really Got Me. And this was in the early 80s when I first heard it. And I didn't know about the Kinks at that point. So I didn't
Uh-huh.
even know that
You
was
didn't
Yeah,
a
even
so you
Kinks
don't
know.
song.
even
I thought it
realize
was
if it's a
theirs.
band that
Yeah.
you haven't heard them.
Yeah.
I find that out more and more that songs that
Mm,
I thought were an artist's own original song, it's turned out to be a cover.
yeah. Uh, Yeah, and then on that, another fun fact on there, I didn't know that Eddie hated the name Eddie. He preferred Edward. So, and
Yeah,
then
so
in
then
the
how
book
did
he
he end
always
up being
calls him
Eddie? I don't
Ed.
know.
Yeah.
Who started that?
Yeah, he shorthanded everybody's with Mike Anthony and Dave Roth and yeah.
Yeah.
But that's their names and then as opposed to their stage names.
Yeah.
And then I also didn't know about I should have known Marshall Burrell. Um, he's the one that introduced him to the producer Ted Templeman, and then I forgot that that's I think he was Marshall Burrell. He was involved with Rat too, and that's why Milton Berle was in one of the Rat videos.
Okay.
So he was on that scene. So I wasn't aware of that.
What
And then
I had no idea.
what was the connection to Milton Berle? What did I?
Marshall's his nephew, Milton
Okay.
Berle's
Okay.
nephew.
Yeah.
Yep. So believe he was I don't know if he was a publicist or something. Yeah, and then Ted Templeman was a big producer, so he got them involved together. And another thing I loved, I have another note about is that when they toured with Black Sabbath, and everybody that is like gone with Sabbath or anything associated with Ozzy, there's always an Ozzy story.
Oh my gosh. Yeah,
And that was a
every
little bit of
band,
craziness too, huh?
yeah, every band was connected to Ozzy in some way.
They all have crazy stories.
Oh
Weird.
my
Yeah.
gosh.
This one, can you imagine him? Goes in the house and he comes out with a shotgun.
Yeah. Just starts taking out ducks in the pond.
uh,
Or were they decoys? I'm trying to
yeah,
remember.
yeah, decoys,
It was
yeah, but who
decoys.
knows?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe maybe he didn't know they were decoys.
Jeez.
In the Motley Crue movie, he was like snorting ants
Oh
and
gee, yeah. That was one of those scenes you want to look away, but you can't because you're like,
yeah,
is this really happening?
right, exactly.
And it really happened, according to what they said.
Yeah. Um, yeah, you said you had questions, Del.
No, no, I mean,
All right.
I think my questions were like, why did the book end when it did? We
Hmm.
talked about that, and why, the the kind of end for Eddie, like, that really wasn't discussed. He just talked about, how he felt about him. Um, I think the thing, and we lived it because we knew that they were brothers. When we were growing up, the group Van Halen, but just thinking about them, basically from birth until he died, like they worked together or were
Hmm.
together that entire time.
Hmm.
And I didn't hear him ever say anything about, we had this period where we just didn't speak to each other, or we went years without talking, anything like that. I mean, just the depth of that relationship, again, impressive, that they were
Hmm.
that bonded together. I don't know.
Absolutely. You
Yeah.
really felt that. I'm glad that
Hmm.
they called the book Brothers
Mm.
because I think that really makes the difference here. And I mean, it's hard enough to grow up with somebody and still and remain close and not, be in each other's face, but to then work together for years and years and years and just be that physically close in proximity all the time and just have your a whole livelihood connected to that person. I mean, that's a lot of time to spend with someone and not have developed some kind of rift, not have shown some kind of jealousy or, why aren't I the front man or why is no one, recognizing my talents more, like there was a lot of there that they could have thought about. And it seems that just was not in the picture whatsoever. Not
I
that,
wonder.
not that people don't bicker at some point or have arguments over things, but you know what I mean. I mean, I mentioned, I posted some things on Facebook. I have one brother. We grew up pretty close, probably because my parents were a little crazy. And I think we kind of like we're gonna stick together. But then we had a lot of the same talents and things. We played in bands together. We did theater shows together. We did a lot of stuff together. That made us you share that experience, and that's it really brings you uh or bonds you in a certain way. And I did not spend nearly the amount of time that these two brothers spent together, working on something that was so highly publicized and in the middle of the public eye. That's a lot to go through and still remain close the whole time. So that was very impressive to me, and it just made me so sad at the end to have him to hear him express that he was now without this piece of his life. It was not just your typical, oh, my bandmates are gone. This was an integral part of his existence on a daily basis. And that just, I cried at the end. I posted, I read at the end of it and I cried. It was just so sad that he has to be without this, this person who had been, practically his twin. So,
Hmm.
I think he said it took him 3 years to get to a point where he could write this book.
Yeah, he could even
So
express it. Yeah.
yeah, I can't imagine. Just can't imagine that.
I can't even
But
believe it's been that long. It feels like he
yeah,
just passed
I
yeah.
away.
know, it's
Yeah.
true.
And he was as and again, I'm not going to profess to be a big Van Halen fan, but when I heard about his death, it's one of those deaths where you can remember where you were when you heard it. And for me, I remember where I was when I heard Eddie Van Halen passed away. So, there's certain celebrities you're just, sad you move on. Not to take anything away from it, but there are certain celebrities that pass that you vividly remember what you were doing at the time that you heard and what a shock it was. And I don't even think and maybe I just don't remember, but I don't remember hearing that he was ill, but come to find out that he'd been battling this for a while. So, but yeah, it's he's quite a talent. And the story that I found really interesting out of the book too was the whole "Beat It"
Mm-hmm.
story with the guitar.
That's true.
Yeah, I had no idea about that because that's always like, I mean, on the radio show, I've even mentioned a few times, Eddie Van Halen, on guitar on "Beat It" or whatever, if we're playing the Michael Jackson song, and that Alex told him don't do it. Like, this is going to cause some problems. And I think,
Hmm.
it seemed the tone, because I was listening to the audiobook during that time, the tone of Alex was he still sounds bitter about it. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, Paul, if you picked up on that or
Yep.
not, or Suzanne, when you
Yep.
read it, but it still sounds like that was, like he should not have done this. Michael Jackson
Hmm.
didn't need Eddie Van Halen, um, you know, at all. So Michael Jackson was doing just fine. So I think Alex was questioning why even bother with this? What's the point?
Mm.
But and I
Yeah,
think
I got the sense that he felt that really diluted their brand,
yeah,
sort of, to have less exclusivity to Eddie's work. And he did mention that when that their album hit number two and Thriller then was number one.
right,
And I was surprised to hear that not only did they do that solo, but it turns out it sounded like he was saying that he did some arrangements, that he
Mm.
contributed to the way that the song was organized. And, maybe that gave it an extra kick,
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
besides just that solo. So I could understand how maybe he would feel like, what the heck? Why would he do that? But it wasn't even so much like, why would he do that? But he came and brought it to us. I said no, and he did it anyway
yeah,
Mm.
without telling him. That's kind of a way to go.
yeah. It was true behind the music stuff. Like those are the
Yeah.
stories I love. So, but I had no idea after, what, 40 years plus, like that was an issue back then.
Yeah, yeah, it just kind of gets me mad at Michael Jackson too, because he took that, and then I totally wasn't even thinking of it, but on that interview with Alex, and he also brought up how Michael Jackson bought like the Beatles
Yeah,
music from Paul McCartney, kind of screwed him too, and
Hmm.
he's like taking and taking from all these legends, and right, that I don't even think that he was credited on the album. And again, he didn't need him. Like I didn't know until somewhat maybe about 10, 15 years ago that Steve Lukather did the other guitar work on that, and he's not too shabby himself. He's incredible. He could have just done the solo and it would have been, just as good. Well, not
yeah,
as good, but that would have been it still would have been a hit. And yeah. And even though he didn't get credited, everybody knew that it was
Yeah, it
Eddie.
didn't take long for it to get
Yeah.
out, and I think that that was a PR thing. Because you're right.
Mm.
I mean,
Right.
musically, it didn't necessarily need a guitar solo at that moment. It wasn't that kind of song. I
Mm.
think it was more Michael Jackson looking to kind of sort of legitimize his sound and spread his, stretch out his audience to a new kind of marketplace to get people excited who were listening to Van Halen, and now they're going to maybe listen to a few more things on Thriller than they would have. And
Mm.
there was, I think, I've seen the documentaries on Michael Jackson also, where Michael Jackson's strategy was to get away from being like a Motown
Mm.
singer, and he wanted to be more kind of homogenous, and that was part of his strategy, was to associate with all these other artists on MTV, as opposed to being looked at as like they were, the Jackson Five or a Motown band, or a rhythm and blues type of roots or what have you. So I think that that was all like a PR stunt.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't remember
Like
if it was in the book or if I went and because I read up a little bit on this because I just again kind of fascinated by that whole backstory. But I think that people would say to Alex like, well, now it made us to go listen to Van Halen music because of Eddie's solo on there, and
mhm.
Alex is like, I'm not buying it. Like, no, I don't believe that for a second. So
Mhm.
Yeah, I think it's
again,
kind of it was supposed to go the
yeah,
other way.
The other way,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
So I don't know, but yeah, just
Mhm.
just really interesting story there.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, a little sneaky too because he was never seen on camera and stuff either,
Yeah, that's
Eddie.
true.
But
He's not even in the video or anything.
yeah, be what like and then
Mhm,
he later did Dirty Diana with Steve Stevens, and he that was obvious like he was featured in there and everything. I saw Billy Idol's guitarist Steve
Yeah.
Stevens play the rock, but yeah, on Thriller it was all different kinds of all different genres of music on that one album.
mhm,
But because it's Michael Jackson all kind of blends in, but there's all different styles on there, including the rock section. So,
mhm.
but yeah, I think out of the whole book, I think that was the biggest rift they might have had. It was probably the biggest argument they
Yeah,
had.
I would say
That
that he described.
and even then, it's not like they stopped talking or anything. And yeah, I love the point that you brought up, Suzanne, how they were close because you see all these other bands like the Kinks, like we mentioned, and Oasis, even Heart, like Ann and Nancy, somewhat recently had a falling out. They've since reconciled, but they've gone years without speaking and collaborating and everything. So the fact
Yeah,
that
yikes.
they're in this intense atmosphere for so long and they still like stuck together and they've gone through different lead singers. Michael Anthony even left, but it's still the two brothers still stay together. So yeah, yeah, that's something. And yeah, I think Alex is also he's of course he was telling his story, but he's telling a lot of Eddie's story too, since he's no longer here to share his
True,
story.
but did you notice they quoted Eddie a lot
Mm,
from different
interviews.
interviews that
Hmm.
he
Hmm.
did in different magazines. He didn't kind of, and I thought I gave the writers a little bit of credit because that's like a publishing choice. That's not so much Alex telling the story. Um, they didn't just take Alex's word for it in describing what Eddie might have said or did say, or putting words in his mouth. They took existing quotes that already like sanctioned, I guess, or
Hmm.
published and sanctioned by the publishing gods out there. So that I think that that provided a little extra legitimacy also to
Hmm.
the fact that he didn't want to speak for his brother. He's going to take the things that were actually documented as him having said before. So,
Yeah,
little
his own
extra credit to
dialogue. Hmm.
them.
Hmm.
So,
Yep. Um, he also with the I didn't yeah, I've been following him all these years and I know there was a lot of controversy with the diver down, but I didn't really realize that, the depth of that. It was kind of like David Lee Roth kind of being jealous and then they had Pretty Woman, another cover for Roy Orbison. That was a big hit, but it wasn't on an album yet. So then the record company wanted to rush out an album, so then that's why
oh
most of those
yeah,
are
and they weren't
covers.
crazy about having to just like throw the album together compared to the way that they usually
Hmm.
assembled their songs. So it's kind of sad that they seemed to get a little like bullied into that.
Yeah, yeah, because I wasn't their style or anything. And yeah, well and then I didn't realize that I love that song Big Bad Bill, Sweet William Now. I didn't realize that Eddie's and Alex's father played on that. He played the clarinet on that. I don't know if you're familiar with that song. It's like one of those
I know the song.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, like I said, my husband listened to a lot of Van
Mhm.
Halen. And yes, some of the songs that they did were uncharacteristic of a metal band or even a pop band. Because
Mm.
they also made mention of Ice Cream Man,
Oh yeah.
which has a, kind of a special place due to, I can think it's a favorite of some, one of my in-laws, etc. But they explained how I think that was that a song, an early song, I think that
That was
David
on the first
did.
album.
Yeah, but he had done it like to audition for them or something like
Oh,
that.
I
I'm
think so.
trying to remember what the circumstances were, but they described um David's style as he wanted to, like he liked Al Jolson and thought that was the first performer who like completely put everything into it. He had costumes, he had makeup, and he did this whole, get down on your knees and do,
Yeah.
and you actually see David Lee Roth do that kind of stuff in their videos
Yeah.
where he's got the top hat and the cane and he's kicking his legs and doing a kick line and doing it in a kind of humorous way, but still in hearing the backstory that that's what he was sort of imitating, and he pulled it off and made it work in a popular song. I mean, to me, that's really a showman. If you can like take those influences and bring them to a bunch of 18-year-olds in in a concert, in a concert venue and have them cheering and screaming, that's a real accomplishment. That's somebody who
Mhm.
really can command an audience. So,
Yeah.
as much as I didn't love that whole, I was like, at the time, I was like, would he shut up?
Yeah.
He's just making things real hard for young women, let's put it that way. But but look, looking back on where that came from, what he was trying to accomplish, and the fact that he really did that so well,
Mm.
that's, hats off to him.
Yeah. Yeah, it was interesting, and you could tell the way it was written, the complex relationship they had with him. But you could tell he annoyed them so much, and they disagreed so much. But then at the same time, he complimented him a lot too. So,
Yeah.
appreciated his talent and everything. But then, yeah.
Well, he knew what he was doing. It wasn't just a surprise that worked. He was very strategic almost about being that big personality all the time,
Mhm.
even if it drove people crazy, even if he was like vamping in the mirrors as he went past things in the hall or, the shop windows. They said he just was never stopped, aggrandizing or
Yeah, no upsets.
self-aggrandizing, let's say,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
I don't know, that's got to get pretty annoying, but they knew it was kind of their meal ticket in a way too.
Mm. Yeah, like you say, where I didn't know that he's the one that actually came up with the band name, Van Halen, too. So,
See, that
which
was
which is
smart.
surprising. Like he even said it was surprising with his ego and everything that, but there was like a
It's
method to his madness too, because he knew that.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. He knew what to do to get what he wanted, and he did it.
Yeah.
He took, even when he had to kind of acknowledge that he had to take a little bit of a back seat. Well, then he got points with the brothers, and he was able to do all the other crazy things he wanted to do.
Hmm.
So that he knew was going to work for them. So I just love hearing this. I
Mm.
just love hearing that stuff.
He's from
These are the kind of
Indiana.
stories.
He's
Oh,
from
is he?
Indiana too. Yeah, yeah, about 45 minutes
Hmm.
down in Bloomington, Indiana, home of Indiana University. So that's where he was. I think he was born in Bloomington.
Oh, I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
Oh, oh, that's
yeah.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I just kept knowing that these two sailed over on a boat when they were like, what, like 8 and 11 years old or something
Right.
like that.
Hmm.
I just keep thinking to myself, what if their mother didn't have a relative in California? What
Mm.
if they never got on a boat and came over here? Like music would be completely different
Yeah.
just because these two kids did get dragged onto a boat with their parents and sent to Los Angeles. It's just fate is just so bizarre sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. Just look at the influence they had on basically the whole 80s rock
Yeah.
scene.
Wow.
Yeah, it's so funny these. small, well, not small decision, but like a single decision like that change
Yeah, it's
the world.
created. And would they had, I mean, if they had stayed in Holland, would they have had even nearly the careers that they had like they went to exactly the perfect place to
Mm,
go
hmm.
to become wildly famous throughout the world. They still would have been just as talented if they grew up in Amsterdam or something,
Yeah.
but would never have had the kind of influence that they did. So
Are there any famous bands from there? I don't know of
I don't think so.
any.
No, I mean,
Yeah.
I I'm
From
coming up
Holland?
empty. I'm just
Yeah. Yeah.
Hang on, we're gonna find out.
I don't know, where's Aha from? Are they they're from the Netherlands somewhere, I think. But
That, are they from Norway? I don't know.
maybe I'd
Sweden.
have to look it up. I think they're uh no, maybe
I
it's Scandinavian. Maybe they're
Mm.
Scandinavian, but
I
that's probably as close as I can think of. Oh boy.
Urban Dance Squad, if you yeah, they're a
Nothing.
Dutch rock rap. I've heard of them. And then I looked real quickly and I was like, Earth, Wind, and Fire. Oh no, it's Earth and Fire. Never heard of
Ah.
Earth.
No wind.
I was like, no, oh,
No
Golden
horn, no
Earring.
horns in that group.
Yeah, it says
Oh, it's kind of, have
Golden.
you seen them? I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, it's Golden Earring, if you remember them,
Oh
Twilight Zone.
yeah. Oh, all right. They're
Yeah,
from there. Oh, okay.
yeah, that's what it says. So there's a bunch of names I can't pronounce. Actually, as I look this up, I have no idea how to pronounce some of these names.
Has
So
anybody seen the movie Eurovision with Will Ferrell and
Oh,
Rachel
I haven't
McAdams?
seen that. No,
yeah,
I've
It's
heard a
very
song from
funny.
there, but I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're like a synthesizer singer duo from Iceland,
Mhm.
and
Uh,
they enter the Eurovision, the European music, kind of like I guess like The Voice or what have you
hmm.
in Europe. That's been going on for decades, I think.
Yeah.
But that's kind of funny because I think they call themselves Fire Squad, or Fire. Maybe it's some play on the band that you just
oh yeah,
mentioned, but
yeah.
it's really funny.
Shocking Blue. Do you remember them, Paul
Oh, that sounds
or
familiar.
Suzanne? Yeah, they
I
did the
don't think so.
original Venus, the
All
Bananarama
right,
did
Oh,
that's
okay.
how I
remade.
know that.
Yeah,
Yeah. Oh, where's
yeah,
Mike? Oh, is Mike Tramp from Belgium? I feel Mike Tramp's from somewhere in
yeah. He's not
Europe
on
too,
this list.
from White Lion. Yeah.
Yeah, where Roxette, where are they from?
Sweden.
Sweden. Yeah.
Sweden. Okay. All right. Well, now that
That's
we've
always
had
just
our,
it.
Yeah.
tutoring session about, European bands.
Yeah. But I have seen the actual
Oh,
Eurovision, like the real
jeez.
thing, because
Oh, yeah?
it was on Peacock not that long ago. But Celine Dion came that she did she won Eurovision one
Oh,
year in the
really?
80s. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Know
See,
that?
Yeah.
I hadn't heard of it until, I was an adult. I don't
Yeah.
remember it during
Yeah.
the time
Oh,
period.
ABBA won that too, I think.
That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
Abo was that's a big deal in the movie.
yeah, yeah. So it's like all this dramatic pop music. That's
Yeah.
that's what that's all about. Yeah, that's fun if you ever check that out. But yeah, it's like one of those singing contests, like American Idol and stuff. Except I think they only do one song. They don't do different songs. So when they go on to the next round, they do the same song again. So yeah.
Okay.
But wow, man, we went right off track. How the hell that happened?
Oh, well.
You-
Well, we're
at
still
the
talking about, music that
at this point,
hailed from
you're
different areas
did you really say
in
I don't know
Northern
how
Europe.
I don't know how that happened? It always happens. Something always happens.
Sometimes it's fun.
Yeah.
uh, uh,
Oh boy.
that, but now that we're kind of slowly winding down from the Van Halen book, sometimes we touch on, you know, current stuff, and I wanted to bring up some fun thing. There's a new documentary on HBO, Yacht Rock, and I
I
just
saw
watched
that.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I thought it was
I've been
really
hearing,
good.
I saw it
seeing
was
people
coming out.
talk about it on
Yeah.
Facebook.
Mm.
I'm gonna have to watch. I'm gonna have to watch. Did you see it, Del? Is that what you said?
No, I saw that it was coming to
Ah,
Max. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's good. Yeah, yeah. So I
was that it's on
recommend it.
Cinemax? Is that what's going on? Or
Uh,
Max,
well,
whatever?
Max, whatever it is now. Yeah, yeah,
Mm,
yeah. So,
I don't get that.
but
Oh, I'll have to wait for it to,
Yeah. So for us
Come
Gen
to
Xers.
Fandango and buy it or something. Yeah, I think that'd be fun.
Yeah, that's a good one. I and somebody a friend of mine on Twitter, in association with Return to the 80s, he told me about this podcast called Yacht Rock, and I listened to that, um those guys, two of the guys from that podcast were on the show. They're the ones that created the term yacht rock because it started off
Oh,
as a
really?
yeah, it started off as like a video comedy video series. But the podcast used to be really good, but they stopped doing it because if people are listening, they're not familiar. Yacht rock, it's kind of like that easy listening music from the late 70s, early 80s, like Christopher Cross, Michael McDonald, like the smooth you know, pop rock of that time. Think of like a lot of the
Yeah,
soundtracks from the
it's
early
good
80s and stuff
stuff.
like that. It was really good stuff. Yeah.
Sirius
Yeah.
XM has their own channel, Yacht Rock
Yep.
Yeah,
channel. So
I
yeah,
like it.
yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah. So
like it.
these so these guys started it. They just out of a joke because they admired these people, especially Michael McDonald. And so it started off as a joke and then it ended up becoming a genre. So
Wow.
yeah. So
Too bad you
eh,
can't. They couldn't have like, copyrighted that or somehow. I mean,
oh, maybe they did.
you
I'm not sure if
know.
they did or not. But it's so cool because the thing that's good about it is that a lot of these people have embraced it. Michael McDonald was on there, Kenny Loggins. A lot of Kenny Loggins early stuff.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
that's Yacht Rocky and Toto, because Toto was yeah. Speaking of, because we touched on Michael Jackson's Thriller, Toto was the
Hmm.
basically the house band for that, and they played on a lot of albums. There's all kinds of interconnections, so it's really interesting to hear about all that. And yeah, it's incredible. So yeah, I highly recommend that for your Gen X recommendations this month. So yeah.
Okay. Well, as soon as it comes to something other than Max,
Yeah.
because I'll watch it.
Paul,
You could do that.
just give her your password. Just do what everybody else
Here I
does.
could do, that thing that everybody does where you get the trial to just
Oh
to
yeah,
watch the
yeah.
one thing you want
Yeah.
and then,
Right.
then you cancel.
Yeah, yeah.
I try not to do that. I think it's unfair. I just, wait or I'll rent it, when it becomes available to rent. So,
Yeah, yeah. Or sometimes the stuff will come out on some of the other apps that have commercials like Tubi or something. And, yeah,
hmm.
Freebie and
Yeah,
stuff
there's
like
always
that.
Tubi.
Yeah,
I'll
yeah,
look for it.
yeah. And then another fun, I don't know if you guys are familiar with this happening. There's a big trend going on with church choirs in church singing like a prayer now.
Oh, I've
Like
not heard
like
that.
like a prayer, like Madonna's like a
Madonna's like
prayer
a
or
prayer. Yeah. Yeah.
church choirs?
Yeah. In churches.
Jeez,
So
see, they must be too old to remember the video.
are too young to realize
Yeah, or yeah, exactly, or maybe too
they're not
young. So
familiar with the
better to say,
controversy.
yeah, too
Yeah.
young to remember the controversy where they all called the video blasphemous.
Yeah. Yeah, they're not used to lyrics that have meaning to them, so they don't pay attention to the lyrics, maybe. But
Yeah, right. And I don't know. Yeah, I don't know exactly if that has some great deep meaning to it. So,
a
yeah,
lot about deep meaning, but yeah, it was definitely a shot at
but it's the same
it.
chick who sang like a virgin.
Yeah,
So
exactly. Yeah.
they should do their research before they start, picking songs for the year.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I've got a little fun fact.
Uh-huh.
When in the early 90s, I worked at an advertising agency on Long Island, and we were representing a guy who was funding a new concert series, and he was trying to rival, Don Cesario or whoever it was on Long Island at the time, who was promoting all the big concerts. And he put together a lineup that included David Lee Roth. And like I said, this might have been like 1991 or 92. And because we knew the guy who was running the concert series, I was able to get these VIP backstage passes.
Mm.
And I wasn't a huge fan, but like I said, my husband was. So I thought, this was going to be great. And then the guy who was running the concert series went broke and ran off to Mexico.
Oh,
The whole thing was canceled.
oh,
So there
jeez.
went my backstage tickets. And I was very aggravated. And we had been advertising for like 2 months for a series of concerts that just never ever happened. But
Oh.
but it was exciting at the time.
Oh, that would be cool.
Almost one of those just like almost got there moments. That didn't quite happen. I don't know.
Uh, was there anything else you wanted to bring up about the book that we didn't touch on?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Do
Um,
we want to talk about that video for in Italy
uh,
with the dinosaurs? Did
I
everybody get to
posted
see
that on
that? We had
Facebook.
that Paul posted.
Oh, that
How
was wild.
bizarre.
Yeah, that was before MTV too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were doing these
You
promotional videos.
would
Yeah,
think,
they
well, it was like practically obscene. Just David Lee Roth running around in
yeah,
that
he
the
made it even
spandex. Yeah.
worse. Yeah.
Oh my God. I
Humping
was like,
the
oh,
dinosaur
I've hurt
leg
my
and tail.
eyes.
Yeah. Ugh. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
speaking of the videos that I think didn't Dave wanted something more fancy for Jump, but they they just did the in studio thing and that ended up being a
But if
big
I
hit.
remember, isn't he doing like high karate, karate jump kicks in spandex fringed
Yeah.
pants in that video? Or am I
You remember,
remembering a
you
different
remember,
one?
remember correctly. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But I think he was wanting to do something more like what he did for like California Girls or Just a Gigolo and stuff. So
Oh,
he wanted to
well,
be more wild. So yeah.
I guess.
Uh, oh,
If
this
that's your kind of thing.
oh there's also a Van Halen documentary on the Roku channel if you have Roku.
Oh,
So that was interesting. A lot of that
I
was
have
in the
Roku, yeah.
book. I think it was from 2003, I think. And one funny thing that wasn't in the book that was in that was they were at they were going to be doing a concert and they're doing the warm up beforehand and there was like a disco ball that they were using that the people at the venue had, and so they were making use of that. And then it was raised up and everything, so they practiced and everything. And then when the just before the show came down, they lowered the disco ball down a bit, but then David Lee Roth to start off the concert, he does like the high jumping kick, and he kicked the disco ball and it shattered.
Ouch. Now, to that sounds painful to me. Did he hurt himself?
They didn't say. Oh yeah, but that also reminds me of that we didn't touch on the M&Ms.
Oh,
oh yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I love that story.
Yeah, yeah. So people, I didn't realize it was them. I heard the story, but I didn't. I don't think I realized it was them. They requested, yeah, as part of, what is that called? The the list of things that they want the venue to provide.
Yeah, well,
Um,
just clauses in their contract.
yeah, yeah. So they wanted with M&Ms, so they wanted all the brown ones out, and yeah, a lot of people make it seem like they're being divas or something, but there was a method to this. If the venue paid attention to detail and took them out, then they knew they were pretty safe. But if the brown M&Ms were in there, you know, they knew there was gonna be
Yeah.
problems and
Yeah, in other words, because they had all this,
heavy
and I
equipment.
was shocked to learn that they were charged for all the, the equipment,
Hmm.
like everything that they made, they put back into their shows. And he
Yep.
kept saying that you'd be surprised we weren't making a lot of money.
Right. Hmm.
That I found really shocking. Like they're doing all this and they're famous as hell, but yet all the money is still going back out the window or back to the record company. But in any case, they had all sorts of specialized equipment and things that other bands didn't have because they did everything so, one off, unique. And a lot of it needed very special conditions in order to keep things from being destroyed, from like exploding or falling through the floor or what have you. And it's just brilliant to me that they would put a little piece like that and throw it into the contract where you have to take out the brown M&Ms just to see that the people at the venue were paying attention. And and adhering to the things that they needed, that they, those requirements, which they needed in order to get through the show without, setting the place on fire, let's say.
Right. Yeah.
And that to me was really, I loved the way he said, we knew when we went into the dressing room and we saw the brown M&Ms, we knew that we were not in the hands of professionals, and
Hmm.
that now we had to watch out as to whether, the floor was going to cave in. So,
Yeah.
which he
Yeah.
said it did
It
happen
did.
at one of
Hmm.
those venues. So,
Mm.
and who knew? Who
Mm.
knew? Because I've heard that too. You always hear that. I think other bands might have picked up on that, and
Yeah.
whether they did it for the same reason or just because they felt they have to live up to the diva
Right.
quote
Yeah.
of
Yeah. That's
Van
true.
Halen, I don't know.
Hmm.
But yeah, I've heard that from other people too.
They
Yeah.
do that with the state fair here after the bands because they have like a free stage during the state fair, and they've got some, 80s groups that show up and some other bands, but they always post in the paper their wish list, or their demand list or whatever you want to call it, after the state fair is over, and it's kind of odd some of the choices that or requests that they make. And I haven't seen remove the brown M&Ms from anybody else, but I'll be on the lookout for that. So
Yeah. Yeah. Because I don't know if it's because of that stage collapse and that they did that, or if that happened when they weren't adhering
mm,
to it. But yeah, and that was news to me too. That yeah, that for a lot of well, for a while they weren't hardly making any money because
I know, what the
they pay
hell?
for everything, between paying for their own equipment and setup and everything, and I'm sure and they got screwed on their record deals and everything too. So the companies were, you know, making a fortune off of them, and they weren't getting as much as
Yes,
they could have.
such a shame, and it was their talent that was carrying all this.
Hmm. Yeah.
But there was a point where he said they kind of turned to them and said, well, so what's the formula? Because it seems like the more we make, the less we make and the more you get.
Yeah.
So
Right. Yeah.
it's just sad.
Yeah. Yeah. And then they even created their own studio, the 5150 studio, and that's where they did 1984. I believe that was the first
Mhm.
album they did at that studio. So yeah, very cool. Yeah, yeah, yeah. They were smart. That's how they hooked up with David Lee Roth. He had his house where they could practice and stuff, and then they would
Yeah.
pay him money instead of paying him. Let's bring him in the band, and then they could, yeah,
Yeah, right. See, they
yeah.
were they were very shrewd. They made a
Yeah,
lot of very good
yeah,
decisions.
yeah. Yeah, so yeah, I really enjoyed this book a lot. Both like I said, I read it and listened to the audio, so you can't go wrong with either. So I recommend this. It sounds like you guys do too.
absolutely.
It was
Yep.
great. It was great.
Mm, yeah. Yeah, well, yeah. All on top of this too, because it's brand new. So yeah, definitely a good stocking
Mhm.
stuffer for your rock fan there. So
There you go.
yeah.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Uh, was there anything else?
I think I'm good.
Cover it all. Covered it all.
You want to talk about next month or later this month
Yeah.
or
Um, all right. Yeah. So we'll do something a little bit different for the month of December. We're gonna do this book called Holidays on Ice by David Sedaris. He he's a really funny writer, humorist, so to speak, and he writes a lot of essays. So I know at least one of these stories. I don't know if he was Santa Claus. He worked in Macy's in New York um, during Christmas season in the 90s. So he has a lot of he's very funny and very observant, and yeah, it's very his humor suits us and everything. So that should be a blast. So I don't think we've done, yeah, we've done a lot of intense books, Bright Lights, Big City,
is there
Lesson Zero.
Yeah, it's
is
true.
there
It might be nice to have something refreshingly
no
humorous.
no drug addiction?
Right.
Yeah,
Just
no,
we
no.
tell, we tell
I'm gonna
Christmas
stop.
stories, yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna stop reading if there's drugs in this book. I'm, I'm
Yeah,
done.
maybe this will be the first one without drugs, I think.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
But yeah, that should be good. So I hope you'll enjoy that. Now, All right, I'll see, Susie. Wanna maybe people can get your book for a Christmas gift for people.
Oh, yeah, that'd be nice.
Mhm.
Okay, well, my book is Once in a Lifetime. It's coming of age fiction that takes place in the 80s, so very Gen X stuff. A lot of new wave references and you know, story about an ambitious girl in the 80s trying to figure out life and relationships and all that kind of stuff. So you can find that on Amazon or Kindle, and you can find me at suzannemattaboni.com. And yeah, I think I'm out there on social media too. It's pretty easy to find me. So
Mhm.
hope to see you out there.
Awesome. All right. And Del, are you on the air right now, or is it an off week this
No,
week?
I am off this week, so I didn't have to rush to do double duty for the last 24 minutes. So I appreciate that. That's why I feel less
Okay.
stress. Yeah, very calm this week, and so it's all good. But yeah, we're back on the air next weekend,
Okay.
and we'll be for probably at least 2, maybe 3 weeks before we break for the holiday season. So it's the 80s at 8 on radio station WEDM. You can download the WEDM app, or we're on the Radio Deck app also. And the nice thing about the Radio Deck app is you can record. You can just pull up, you hit play, record, turn the volume down, listen later if you want. So anyway, 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. Saturday and Sunday starting next weekend.
But yeah, that's such an awesome
And
show.
and we're adding 80s Christmas music too. So I'll be, throwing in some,
Cool.
you know, Madonna, Santa Baby. I'm sure you'll hear that. And speaking of Madonna, and maybe we'll throw Like a Prayer in too. Just,
Oh,
you know,
Yeah,
that
the new
yeah,
she's making a
church song.
comeback.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Hey, speaking of Milli Vanilli's making a bit of a comeback too, I heard. So
Oh,
because of
really?
That was a
the
good docudrama.
yeah, the Menendez Monsters on Netflix. There's
Oh
I
man.
think 3 Milli Vanilli songs that made an appearance during that, and
Oh
there's
boy.
a
Wow.
it's disturbing content, no question about it. But the music is they pulled some songs into the miniseries that I was like, wow, I'm surprised they used that. But some kind of obscure '80s stuff that showed up. So check and Don't Dream It's Over. My daughter said that's a TikTok song now because of that. So
Oh.
yeah, yeah. So anyway, so just a
Awesome.
little. I don't know. I just wanted to talk about Milli Vanilli for a minute. I don't think we.
There you
I
go.
don't. I don't think we talked about Milli Vanilli on here before. So
No.
first time for everything.
Cultural icons.
Yes, yes. So
I do wonder what happened to the guys that actually sang because they had good voices. You would think they would have done other
yeah,
stuff.
I
That's
think
yeah.
everybody just we're just they dissipated. I mean, they're done. Like nobody wanted anything to do with them, regardless of whether they were the singers or not the singers or anything. It just all fell
Hmm.
apart. So
Yeah, yeah, so sad. Yeah,
sad day for music.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, yeah, I'm loving how a lot of our music
Yeah,
is coming back.
yeah. For this next
Oh yeah.
generation.
You hear it
Hmm.
everywhere.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, it was Kate Bush's song that was with Stranger
Yeah,
Things. So yeah,
yeah. I think it was.
Yeah, went crazy.
yeah.
Yeah, I think
That's a
Metallic.
great song.
Yeah, yeah. That's right up your alley. So, uh,
Absolutely. I
I think
had
there
that
was
album in
a Metallic.
1985.
Stranger Things made a Metallica song. I forget
All
which one
right.
now. So, but that
Mm.
that was popular because of the series, and now that'll be, at some point that's coming back. I think it keeps getting moved, but Stranger Things will be back, and I'm sure they'll have another song that'll be a big hit from that era. So,
Hmm. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
So much
interesting to
fun.
see what it'll be.
Yep, yep. All right, and then you can find me at see it's oh no, I changed it to Gen X Journeys on Instagram, and you can find me at Inspiring Journeys as well, as I've been reposting our content from Return to the 80s on there as part of my Gen X Journeys brand on Inspiring Journeys. And I just recently reposted our episode on planes, trains, and automobiles, which was a lot of fun. Oh, so
That
good.
was a blast.
The great movie, great podcast episode. So yeah, you can check that out. I'm going to be reposting everything. And I was thinking we had an incredible interview with Mark Weiss,
Yeah,
legendary rock and roll photographer, and he's done pictures for Van Halen. So maybe, yeah, in
Neat.
honor of this book, I'll post that episode this week. So
that's a
that was
great
a
book
really good
too.
one.
Yeah,
Yes. Hmm.
yeah. If you
A
that
decade
that's a
that rocked. Hmm.
Yeah, that's an awesome Christmas gift if you have someone who loves that kind of music.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's a good idea. I'll post that and yeah, and I'll post that episode this week, I believe. So yeah, yeah, that was probably one of our highlights of that podcast, having him on.
Yeah. But
Thanks,
we could
thanks.
we
Cool.
can thank our friends Claire and Caroline for that too. They made
Exactly.
that happen. So, but that was a fun episode to do.
Hmm. Yeah,
Sorry,
yeah.
Suzanne, we're walking down memory lane right now.
That's
So,
quite all right. Maybe I'll watch it.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Well, Claire was technically there. She's the one that like hooked it up together and everything. She was kind of
yeah.
like the producer of that episode, and so yeah. But yeah, so that was a lot of fun. So I'll be posting that so you can check out Inspiring Journeys, and then I'm also under my personal accounts, the Roadrunners, RHODE, and I post a lot of stuff on there too. And yeah, I think that's about it. And then if you have any suggestions, I still have my return to the 80s at gmail.com. If you have any book suggestions that you'd like us to check out, I'd love to hear from you. And yeah. And Suzanne, I'd like to thank you as usual for doing this. It's a lot of fun. And yeah. Yeah, we've been doing this almost a year now. So
Wow, really?
yeah, I think
Yeah.
then we started in January, I think, maybe. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I guess so. Wow.
Yeah.
Is the plan
Good for
is the
us.
plan to do this next book in December, or are we going to do it in January?
Um, I'll have to look at the schedule. Yeah, probably
Okay.
right after the holidays,
Okay.
maybe. So,
Okay.
because it'll be a little hectic. So, because I didn't even look to see what day everything's on this year. Um, oh wait, yeah, I could check right now.
Christmas
See
is on a Wednesday.
on a Wednesday. All right,
Yep.
so what is that Sunday, the 29th or something?
Mm-hmm.
28th,
Yep.
29th?
29.
Yeah, so we can probably do that unless yeah, so we'll see what our schedules are like
Okay.
if we're make
Yeah, I have no
sure
idea.
nobody's
I usually have
traveling and stuff.
a lot of big stuff going on the week between Christmas and New Year's, but
Yeah, yeah. So might be just after New Year's. So then yeah, that'll give us time, that busyness to read the book and everything. So we'll
okay.
check out the David Sedaris next month. And I want to thank everybody for listening and watching. Um, yeah, I don't think anybody came on during this live recording, but I'm sure people will check us out afterwards. So I want to thank you all for watching and feel free to leave comments and follow us all. And want to wish you all a very happy holiday season. So, and try to stay stress free and take care of yourself and keep on rocking.
Okay.
All right. Happy holidays, guys.
Happy
Yeah.
holidays, everybody.